Even though she's going to be a little bit.
We do have a few announcements this morning. As everyone knows, it's been a lovely COVID year. Your safety while attending this event is important to us. Please remember to stay at least 6 feet away from others and do not stand together in large groups or crowds. Please wear a mask for the safety of yourself and others. Sanitizer is available at various locations, and we ask you to wash or sanitize your hands as often as possible. If you are not feeling well, please go home. We are online with all of our 4-H shows. You can join us there. If you are at risk, please use extra caution. We are all in this together, and thank you for doing your part. Clover Kids, you will show after overall showmanship. Please make sure you have your older 4-H'er with you. Class 2 of senior showmanship, please report to the holding pens. Michaela Hood, Emily Note, Isaiah Briner, Darren McConville, Jada Myring, Katie McDonald, and Kyler Thomas. Please report to your holding pens.
Okay. Alrighty, folks. Well, good morning. Excited to be starting a hog show this early and see all of your bright, shining faces and start off the day with the national anthem. I don't think there's a better way to do that. So we're going to go ahead and excuse each of these individuals from the ring. We're going to bring back the two that are pinned for the final tribe of seniors here. I think as a whole, though, through the ones that are left standing, we probably just aren't doing some of the extra things. Most of them are still attempting to drive their hog, maybe just not with the most control. The two I kept probably did the best job as far as keeping that head up. And then the young lady that was probably the closest to making the cut for me was a young lady with the belted gilt. She's getting close. She's keeping that pig's head up, but every now and then she'll get on the fence, or I feel like the pig is telling her where to go rather than vice versa. I think they're all doing a really good job. There's little things that we could probably fix. Maybe have just a little bit more control, like I said, and then try to keep that head up just a touch more. But a really nice set. Go ahead and put your hands together for these folks as we excuse them out of the ring, and we'll see these two back here in just a minute.
Color first, and then take the next. If that works for you, if that doesn't, you tell me. And then receiving purple in that class, Delaney Childers and Jack Payne. Receiving blues, Catherine Reiner, Charles Shrewsbury, Shaylin McConville, Braylon Shrewsbury, and Kaylee Shreve. Entering the ring at this time is Class 2 of Senior Championship, Michaela Hood, Emily Noe, Isaiah Briner, Darren McConville, Jada Myring, Peyton McDonald, and Kyler Thomas.
the most presents, and just as far as getting that hall set up, once again, they just did an awesome job there. So gonna echo the same thought I did in my first round of seniors, just maybe not the most complete control of these animals as far as directing them, getting the right views, keeping their head up at all times. So again, we're gonna excuse these individuals here. We see those other two back here in just a moment, but if you like to come in, stand up for these individuals, folks.
Darren McConville and Hayden McDonald, receiving a red, Kyler Thomas. Entering the ring at this time is Class 3 of Senior Showmanship, Jace Myring, Kate Payne, Keegan Hitchcock, Sarah Yoke, and Jace Scott. Please stand for the standers. Class 4, our first class of intermediate pick showmanship. Please be making your way to the holding pens. Gatlin Bell, Brenna Shoemaker, Carson Thomas, and Jacob Reiner.
individually real quick since there's only 3 left out. Young man here probably just worked on trying to keep the right distance between the judge and the hog would get a little too close for me. I have a hard time when they're that close. Maybe you just want to see if they can touch more after it, get a little bit more aggressive and intense as far as getting that hog where you need to rather than just kind of working at his pace. And then maybe work on keeping that head up just a touch more. Young lady here in the middle has done a really good job keeping that pace head up. Maybe just not most consistently all the way through the drive. Once again here, that pace kind of telling you where to go rather than vice versa. So just again, get a little bit more aggressive and intense here. And then the young man here in front of me, echo the same thought. You're just kind of letting them take the side where you go rather than doing the driving here. So just once again, folks, a really nice set. I'm excited to bring these guys out and watch them fight here for the seniors. Like I said, it's another set. Go ahead and put your hands together for these individuals.
Receiving blues, Katie Payne, Keegan Hitchcock, and Sarah Doe. Receiving purples, Jace Myring and Jace Stone. Entering the ring at this time, the Lady Childers, Jack Payne, Emily Doe, Jada Myring, Jace Myring, and Jace Stone.
Shovel or something you put up here?
I think we've sorted off the cream of the crop for the senior showmen here. I think there's a stellar set of individuals out here that are all doing a really outstanding job. You know, as a whole, there's just a couple things that kind of separate the top 3 for me away from the rest of the group. They each have control over their animal. They each are giving me every look, every view of that hog. They're keeping that head up consistently, as well as presenting themselves and doing a really good job with that. To go along with that, they were all really easy to talk to, very knowledgeable about their projects, and just very comfortable here in the ring, but yet still intense and wanting to fight here for the spot to win, which I think is what kind of separates them off from the rest. of the group here. I'm going to make them work just a touch longer. Go ahead and talk about the ones I've pinned. Young man there on the closest end to me. Once again, probably just got kind of back in the shadows as far as keeping that pig a little bit too far away from me. I know things get a little clustered up here in the front, so he kept his distance, which was good. Maybe just wanted to see a touch more intensity from that standpoint. Young lady behind him, awfully nice job. Just again, they're missing that little touch of intensity as far as keeping that head up. Every second I see him, maybe you want to see him drive at just a touch faster pace, maybe just a little on the slower side, maybe you want to get just a little bit more aggressive as far as getting that pig going. And then the young lady in the end did an awfully nice job when she came out in her first heat. We bring her back here for the final drive, and that pig is wanting to fight her head quite a bit, just getting a little jumpy and kind of jittery with that standpoint with the whip. But like I said, an awfully nice job out here. Young man with the calico hogs can go ahead and be third. You're an awfully tall guy, little hog, so the whip probably benefits you from that standpoint. It's long and fluffy. You're doing a great job keeping that head up. Kind of awkward with your arm, got a little T-Rex arm going on, so that's probably, if anything, kind of what sorts it out for me. And that comes down to personal preference. And I think these two that are left here in the ring do an awfully, it's just outstanding. If I could paint an image for younger showmen to look and watch that and see how it should be done, I would show them these two. I think, again, it's splitting hairs here between the two. Young lady for me is just a touch cooler, calmer, a little more collected from that standpoint. Do an awfully nice job from that standpoint. Young man, right at the very beginning, maybe just got a little too nervous and wound up. Maybe just a touch past with that whip, and so the pig was trying to fight his head just a touch ever so slightly. Like I said, and it's awfully close. Really nice job, folks. One more time, put your hands together. I'll shake the hands of your man. Your reserve champion senior showman is Jace Myrie. Entering the ring at this time will be our first class of intermediate pig showmanship. Gatlin Bell, Brenna Shoemaker, Carson Thomas, and Jacob Briner. This morning I'd like you all to help me welcome our judge, Laurel Bispain, grew up on a commercial cattle operation in southeast Idaho. She showed cattle competitively for 10 years. After graduating high school, she left Montana for Casper, Wyoming, where she competed on the livestock judging team. She graduated with her associates and was named an academic All-American livestock judge in 2017. She then transferred to the University of Wyoming and competed on the livestock judging team there as well.
She was recognized as the high individual at the American Royal Livestock Judging Contest in Kansas City, Missouri. She graduated with her bachelor's in Ag Communications in 2019 and is currently pursuing her master's in animal science. She is the assistant coach for the UW Livestock Judging Team alongside Caleb Boardman and her new husband. Please help me in welcoming Laurel Despain.
That's good. Wire. Wire. Good. I mean, we can really send it. We send it.
Set of intermediates here to work with. I'm going to sound like a broken record all day here echoing the same thought of just trying to keep that pig's head up and having control of the hog at all times, and making sure that the individual is determining where we go and the route we take from that standpoint. For these individuals that I left out here, things that they can work on just a touch more for me. I think eye contact is maybe just a touch lacking in that regard. So maybe I want to see just a little bit more eye contact, a touch more aggressive. Intensity from that standpoint. I think they're all doing a really good job. They were all really fun to talk to. Young man, maybe you want to see you come out with a different utensil there to drive your pig. The one you have now doesn't necessarily allow you to work on getting that pig's head up. That's why whips work so well from that standpoint. And then these two individuals over here, young man in the burnt colored hog, I want to see you have just a little bit more control in getting that pig driving. Young lady here, your pig doesn't stop, so maybe you just want to see you work on getting that pig's head up a little bit, and then she'll slow down for you ever so slightly. But if you would, folks, please put your hands together as we excuse these individuals from the ring. Once you get young man back here in just a minute.
Jacob Griner. Receiving blues, Gatlin Bell and Brenna Shoemaker. Receiving a red, Carson Thomas. Entering the ring at this time is Class 2 of Intermediate Showmanship, Sutton Parkinson, Talon Payne, Jet Harian, and Gatlin Bell. Third class of intermediate showmen, please make your way to the holding pen. Hadley Shrewsbury, Evan Smith, Josie Sanders, and Brooklyn Warner. Make your way to your holding pens, please.
intermediates here to work with. They were all really fun to talk to and told me about their projects and what they'd like to change if they could. Really easy to talk to, like I said, each individual. I'm going to excuse these two from the room. Young man here started off really great at the beginning. As we work towards the end more, maybe want to see you just get a little bit more aggressive with that head like you came in with to start. And then that takes more to stop on you every now and then. You're not doing just a great job of getting it back going again and getting it back in gear. Young lady with the white hog's doing a really good job. She's got complete control of that animal, but once again, I think the things that sorted the two off to keep back were just the fact that they were working harder on that head and getting that pig to driving their head up. And she did tell me that that was one thing she would like to change about him if she could. And I think what would help is if you get a softer tip whip so that when you hit that pig in the jaw, the bottom tail wraps around and kind of pinches that head up. So with that, let's put your hands together for those two individuals and let's see these back in just a second.
Receiving purples, Jet Marion and Gavin Bell. Receiving blues, Sutton Parkinson and Callan Payne. Entering the ring at this time, our third class of intermediate showmanship, Hadley Shrewsbury, Evan Smith, Josie Sanders, and Brooklyn Warner.
once again here, folks, and awfully nice of setter intermediates here to work with. I think they're all doing a really good job. Once again, the things that separated it for me was just complete control of that animal, and then the hints of trying to keep that head up, maybe just not the most consistent we've seen so far. Young man started off great in the heat, and then as we start working farther along, that hog's not necessarily wanting to drive for him. He's kind of struggling to get that one back in the gear. And the young individual here with Bubba is doing a really good job. When you go to turn that pig, you'll notice that he cranks his head up. That's what I want to see the whole time, okay? First year showman here. I think she's doing a really good job. Got an exciting future in this. Just a little bit novice as far as kind of learning the ropes here. But an awfully nice set. Go ahead and put your hands together for these individuals. We'll bring these ones back here to fight for a champion and reserve spot.
Receiving purples, Kathleen Shrewsbury and Josie Sanders. Receiving blues, Evan Smith and Brooklyn Warner. Entering the ring at this time, you have Jacob Greiner, Jed Marion, Gavin Bell, Josie Sanders, and Hadley Shrewsbury.
again here, an awfully nice set of kids here that are doing a really good job. Once again, going to let these kids work just a little longer. Young lady in the Pen 5 did an awesome job. She's got complete control of that pig. Once again, maybe just want to see you pick up the pace just a touch more as far as intensity and get a little bit more aggressive with that whip as far as getting that pig's head up and keeping it driving the whole time. Young man with the Duroc there towards the end of it, just getting a little lackadaisical, if you will. You're very cool, calm, and collected, but almost to a fault at times. Maybe you just want to see you be able to touch more aggressive all the way through. And then these three, to me, I think are doing the best job as far as keeping control of that animal. There's spots of them keeping their head up, but only one of them doing it consistently. Between these two here, I think it's fighting for a spot in reserve. With that being said, young man here with the hand pumps, you can go ahead and be your champion. I think he's doing an awfully good job. He separates himself pretty easily. That's a hard one to miss as far as keeping control of that pig, getting his head up, making sure that pig is always between me and him. He's giving me every view of that hog. And then, like I said, it's a fight here for reserve between these two, and I think there's some give and take between the two. Young man with the chromed up gilt, maybe one that's, again, here just a little bit too calm for me. Maybe you want to see just a little bit more intensity as far as getting that pig to drive at all times when he stops, or when she stops, excuse me. You're a little slow on getting her back to driving. You're doing a good job keeping control of that head, though, and making sure she goes where you want her to. And the young lady here with the white belted gilt, once again, same story type of deal, and that's why I think it's so close, because they're pretty similar in terms of the way they show. I just think there's a lot more intensity in the young lady. She's going to go ahead and be your reserve champion. Put your hands together one more time, coach, turn off the set. Your champion intermediate pig showman is Jet Marion. Your intermediate is Josie Sanders. Entering the ring at this time is your first class of junior pig showmanship, Jet Childers, Jason Robertson, Berkeley Davies, Emma Hitchcock, and Ainsley Boltman.
Yeah, he moved down there last time.
I thoroughly enjoy junior showmanship, and it's not necessarily even watching them show, it's just hearing the answers to their questions, because they're just so comical, and I know they're not even trying to be, and that's what makes it even funnier. But an awfully good set here. Once again, gonna echo the same thought, sound like a broken record, like I said earlier. They just need to have a little bit more control. We've got a couple that are racing around out here. You know, if I was going to make a bet on one of them and put them in a race, it'd be the young ladies here. She said that was her favorite thing about her. And she's always competing, which I would agree. She's just a little too fast, maybe want to see just a touch more control. And then all the way through, the ones that are left out here, want to see them just try to work on getting their head up just a little bit. Young lady with the big old bows doing a good job as far as control, but once again, maybe want to see her work on that head just a little bit more. Like I said, an awfully nice set, folks. Please put your hands together for these individuals as they excuse us from the ring.
Receiving purples, Jeff Childers and Jason Robertson. Receiving blues, Berkeley Davies, Emma Hitchcock, and Ainsley Boltman. Entering the ring at this time, Addison Intermill, Dallas Boltman, Mackenzie Shreve, and Audrey Shrewsbury. Third class of junior pig showmanship, Please make your way to the holding pens. Burr Underwood, Corey Childers, Rayleigh Boltman, and Brennan Shreve.
Well, after talking to these juniors, I found that something that needs to be invented. Someone needs to figure out how to change the color of pigs after they're born. Because 2 of them told me they don't like the color of them. So you'd have 2 buyers already. An awfully nice set though, like I said, they're really fun to work with. Their answers are comical. Really great job out here. I think they're all doing a really good job, like I said. Again, sound like a broken record. Just want to see a little bit more control. We got a couple that are getting a little racy, a little antsy, and then we got one that just doesn't want to move and wants to kind of fight along the fence line. For future fairs and just working in the spring, try to get these kids to work on their heads just a little bit more as far as keeping their heads up. But all with that said, I think they're doing a good job, folks. Please put your hands together as we excuse these back to the barn. They're all doing a great job.
Receiving a purple, Dallas Goldman. Receiving blues, Addison Interhill, Mackenzie Shreve, and Autumn Aubrey Shrewsbury. Entering the ring at this time is our third class of junior showmanship, Bert Underwood, Troy Childers, Braylee Bolton, and Brendan Shreve.
Once again, a really nice set. Young lady probably has the best dancer today. If she could change him, she'd make him a Yorkshire, and she would name him King. So, new invention. Change the breed of a pig after the corner. But they're both doing a really good job. Young man's got the old 1-2 motion down, put him in a barrel race. If you want to see him get ahead just a little bit more, like I said, a little bit more control as we work through. The 2A Kemp are doing an awfully nice job. The young man came in first. I think he's like a 15-year-old stuck in a little boy's body. He's very mature. But an awfully good set of kids here, folks. One more time, put your hands together for an awesome set of individuals.
Receiving purples, Burr Underwood, Coy Childers. Receiving blues, Braylee Waltman and Brendan Shreve. Entering the ring at this time, Jet Childers, Jason Robertson, Dallas Woltman, Burr Underwood, and Coy Childers. Those of you coming back for overall showmanship, please report to your holding pens. Jace Myring, Jada Myring, Josie Sanders, Jet Arian.
On the posting last night, it was fine, but that one doesn't come through. I mean, I can go back in and add them up. Just give you a fact. Because I don't want to go for the rest of it. It's not in your
When you get three showmen like this, it makes my job awfully hard. I think they're all doing a really good job. With that being said, I haven't made up my mind yet, so I'm going to talk about the two-year plan real quick. Young man at 10'5", I asked him if he could change anything. He said he'd make his pig not have 12 toes, so that's cool. Fun facts. Maybe you just want to see it work a little bit harder. Maybe you want to see that skin and hair just a little bit fresher. So we're going to get some products to work on that at home. And then when you brought her out, just wanted to see you work a little bit harder with that whip and getting her head up, and then trying to keep her in front of me just a little bit more. There right before you got pinned, you were behind me and not necessarily trying to get in my line of view. Young man ahead of him did an awfully nice job in his individual heat. Maybe he got just a little bit wound up out here, and the pig kind of reflected that, got a little bit nervous, got a little fast as well. So maybe the pig's just not dancing the same song as him today. And then these three individuals, I'm going to talk about them each in no particular order. Young man with the blue hog's doing a really good job. He's probably the most cool, calm, and collected out here. He's got the most control of his hog, doing an awfully nice job keeping that head up as well. And there's really not just a giant fault with that one. Young man with the kind of chromed up pig. When that one came out in his individual heat, I went, oh, I found my champion. And then we bring him out for the final drive, maybe a little bit nervous. Pig's not necessarily wanting to work with him here once again. Dancing a different song than him right now. And then the young man with the speckled belted hog, once again, there's not really a huge fault with that one. Maybe just not the most intense as far as keeping that head up. He's trying awfully hard. Pig's not trained and ready for that right now. But like I said, an awfully nice job. I'm going to take one more look before I get you a champion in reserve, folks. But one more time, put your hands together for an awfully nice set of junior exhibitors. Your champion junior showman is Jason Robertson. Your reserve champion junior showman is Boyd Childers. Clover kids, if you are showing with an older 4-H'er, if you are showing pigs with an older 4-H'er, please make your way to their pens at this time. Clover kids, report to your older 4-H'ers pens. At this time, I'd like to thank some of our award sponsors. Our senior swine showmanship was sponsored by Antioch Machine. Our reserve senior swine showmanship sponsor was the Leroy Busberg Memorial. Intermediate swine showmanship sponsor is Lee Farming and Harvesting. Reserve intermediate swine showmanship is Leroy Busberg Memorial. Junior swine showmanship is Quincy and Ellie Walls. Reserve Junior Swine Showmanship is the Leroy Busberg Memorial. And your overall Swine Showmanship Award is sponsored by Billy Elder in memory of Howard Elder. Exhibitors and parents of exhibitors, please be sure to turn in your sale cards 30 minutes after the show today. Please have the card completed with your exhibitor and parent and guardian signatures.
Mason Robertson, Coy Childers, Jace Myring, Jacob Myring, Josie Sanders, and Jet Harrigan.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it's open right, and I did. Yes.
Well, folks, I think that we've sorted off the cream of the crop here for showman, and awfully nice set of hog exhibitors here. You know, if I could award each of them, I would, but they've already gotten them, and it's hard for me to pick a choice out here, but I've still got two that hit me awfully hard from the start. I think they're an awesome stellar set. I'm going to give the two seniors. Folks, put your hands together one more time for these awesome honors kids.
Champion overall swine showman is Jada Myring. Reserve champion overall swine showman is Jace Myring.
Take him that way. I gotta go that way.
Peter Giltz, Class 1, please make your way to the holding pen. Berkeley Davies, Jack Payne, Talon Payne, Dallas Waltman, Brennan Shreve, and Braylon Shrewsbury. Please make your way to the holding pens. Scratch that. I forgot the Clover kids are coming first.
Go ahead and bring the first class in. These little folks, and it's okay for them to bring the range. Go ahead and bring this first class of Clover kids in, and they'll be in the range. Good. Bring them in. Bring them all. Ron, we can't do all at the same time.
Oh, half of them. Half of them. I didn't know how many there was.
A lot.
This is kind of an exciting morning at the Swine Show. This is the first year we've been able to include the Clover kids and getting them out here to get their hands on a pig and see what it's all about. So please give them all a round of applause, as well as the older 4-Hers that are helping these kids out and get them out and
What's your name? Quinn. And what's your pig's name?
Ned.
Ned. And what's your favorite thing about Ned?
He likes to be rubbed.
Me too. You want to rub my tummy? Okay, good choice. Are you gonna keep showing? That's what we like to hear. Good job. Can I get a high five? Yeah. All right. What's up, Rainbow? What's your name? What? Harley. And what's your pig's name? Jojo. And do you have a favorite thing about Jojo? It's easy to brush. Awesome. And are you going to keep showing? Awesome. And is this pig going to win the whole show? Me either. Awesome. High five. Good job. Hello. What's your name? Paisley. That's my dog's name. I love that name. What's your pig's name? Phil. And what's your favorite thing about Phil? Do you have a favorite thing? And this is where we cue the crickets. One more time. Do you have a favorite thing about Phil? Okay. You don't know. Awesome. Are you going to keep showing? Awesome. Can I get a high five? Good job. Hey man, what's your name? Charlie. And what's your pig's name, Charlie? Betsy. And what's your favorite thing about Betsy? She likes to run and play. And are you going to keep showing? Awesome. Can I get a high five? Don't run away. Yeah. Have I talked to them all? In the corner. Awesome. Ah, look at this little kitty. Hello, what's your name? Sydney. Awesome. And what's your pig's name, Sydney?
Pumbaa.
Pumbaa. I like it. And do you have a favorite thing about Pumbaa? Awesome. The talking pig. And are you going to keep showing?
Yes.
Awesome. Can I get a high five? Yeah, good job. All right, folks, give it up for these awesome kiddos.
With one more class of that.
That's in your way.
That is. But here, right here, Ron. Go right there.
I don't have anything to stick it with. I need a big stick. Let me go get a stick. Let me go get a stick. Bring him in, guys.
Okay, here comes our second round of Clover Kids Showmen this morning. Hi, what's your name? Olivia. And what's your pig's name, Olivia? Bo. And what's your favorite thing about Bo? What? He tastes good. All right. Have you licked him? How do you know he tastes good right now? You don't know? Do you feel tastes good when you make him into bacon? Are you gonna keep showing, Olivia? Awesome. Can I get a high five? Yeah. Hello, what's your name? Carly. And what's your pig's name, Carly? Coco.
have a favorite thing about Coco? He likes other pigs. All right, and are you gonna keep showing? No. All right, no high five for you. Just kidding. Can I get a high five? Yeah. All right. Hey, dude. What's your name?
Easton.
Easton. I like that name. What's your pig's name, Easton? You don't even know? All right. That's cool. You can name him whatever you want. If you could name him anything, what would you name him? Pickle. All right, I like it. Are you gonna keep showing Easton? No. No? All right. No high fives? Just kidding. Can I get a high five? Good job. All right. Hello. What's your name?
Joey.
Joey. And what's your pig's name, Joey? This is his name. Awesome. All right. And what's your favorite thing about Nick? You don't know? All right. Are you going to keep showing? Awesome. There's a high five. Can we get one? Yes. All right. Did I get them all? Parents, family, we good? All right. Folks, give it up one more time for this awesome set of kiddos. They're doing a really outstanding job. It's exciting to see future showmen here just starting off. I remember when I got my drink of the juice and I was hooked. So this is where it starts. Train them right, keep them good. They're doing an awesome job, folks. One more time.
Thank you.
Entering the ring at this time will be our first class of feeder guilds. Berkeley Babies, Jack Payne, Talon Payne, Dallas Wolfman, Brennan Shreve, and Braylon Shrewsbury. Market Class G1, please be making your way to the holding pens. Coy Childers, Delaney Childers, Kason Robertson, Ainsley Waltman, Jet Harrigan, and Michaela Hood. Please make your way to your holding pens. For all of you needing something refreshing to drink, the Junior Leaders Hotline is now open. Make your way that direction and they will hook you up.
wider belted. You know, it's going to go ahead and win for me. You know, we study that one from the ground up. It's a wide constructed scout featured hog. It's big arms. Her rib cage is laid into her right. Excuse me. She's square yet bold. If we were going to change her, maybe want to change her on the back 1/3 of her body. She gets a little short and round out of her hip, and then her back leg does an action quite as aesthetic or attractive as we like, but a really nice kind of basic market hog that I think has an exciting future. Once again, just a little green, a little raw. Young man, it's kind of thin belted, off belted hog here. One that isn't the most attractive there from the side. If you want to slide her down to that, I wouldn't argue. But as we study that one in terms of the basics, it's a wide constructed, wide chested hog that's opened up in terms of a rib cage, still soft and productive and big out of her upper hip. So from a market perspective, that one marks all the boxes. She's just a little ugly from the side. She wants to open up in terms of her blade. She's not as attractive there through her jowl. She gets a little waisty there. And the way that one's hip and hind leg is constructed just isn't the most unique or attractive there from the side, but a good market animal from that standpoint. Young man's kind of coarse-haired gilt that comes out next, super long and extended. She's got an old ugly head on her, kind of droopy in terms of her ear. But in terms of the basics, once again, it's a wide-chested hog that leaves you opened up and comes at you the same way. She's got some raw shape and power up high, but once again, she's just a little raw, a little lean. From a design standpoint, like her extension, she needs to be put together just a notch better in terms of her structure to get around better, but I like the feature. She's opened up and wide constructed, a little raw and green. Same story goes for this young lady's hog. Got some neat pieces in terms of design, tall in terms of her front end, neat in terms of her jowl, but coming and going, that was just a touch disappointing in terms of skeleton, skeletal width, rib shape. Young man's hog that comes next, big outline, high performing, late maturing, extended type of hog. Same story, coming at you and leaving you just a little bit too narrow and closed up. Doesn't necessarily allow for the same amount of power as the ones ahead of it. And the same story goes for the young lady's hog. Big outline, late maturing, extended, all of those things. Little raw and green for her extra size. She needs to be softer. Same story once again, too narrow and closed up. Her rib cage needs to be busted open. A little bolder to allow for more product and muscle up high. Nice set. Go ahead and give those exhibitors a round of applause.
Receiving the purple, Jack Payne. Receiving blues, Berkeley Davies, Dallas Boltman, Vernon Shreve. Receiving reds, Talon Payne, and Braylon Shrewsbury. Entering the ring at this time is Class G1 of Market Pigs, Coy Childers, Delaney Childers, Casey Robertson, Ainsley Woltman, Jet Marion, and Michaela Hood. Class G2, please make your way to the holding pens. Burr Underwood, Jada Myron, Delaney Childers, Brady Woltman, Shaylin Conville.
George? George?
A nice set here for our start of our lightweights. Young man's blue gilt's going to go ahead and win for me again. Basics, she's got him covered. Wide constructed, stout feature. Opened up in terms of her rib cage, yet still soft and productive from that standpoint. She comes out of the backside of her blade with an aggressive turn of muscle. She's shapely, she's expressive. Maybe just not the most attractive thing there from the side. I think if we were to get that gilt's head up just a notch more, probably hide that just a little bit. But she gets a little loose and chubby there in terms of her jowl and jaw. Needs to be just a touch more extended. Maybe you want to change your neck attachment ever so slightly. Functionally structured, maybe just not the most attractive from that standpoint. Young man's belted gilt needs to be rearranged in terms of her skeleton. She's too forward in the angle of her blade. Rocks up there on the front end, and then from behind she wants to round out of her hip, set down on the smaller, frailer toe, and then the action of her back leg maybe just isn't the most attractive there from the side, but once again, she's opened up, wide constructed. She's got enough rib shape to be productive and still prove and show with some muscle shape up high. Leaves you with some expression there through her stifle and big out of her upper hip. Young man's drummed up gilt here. If you wanted to switch the next two, I wouldn't argue. Maybe just not the most attractive built from the side, but long and extended. Opened up more in terms of its chest, wants to come in at its knee and set down on a frailer toe. We get from behind that one, he's too frail in terms of his structure there from behind, but like its rib shape in terms of softness of body. Still proving just a productive look there from the side. Young lady's hog, that comes next. Same story coming at you. She's opened up in terms of her chest, wants to come in down at her knee, kind of close up and funnel to the surface. She's got more expression than the one that was ahead of her. Need to change that one from a structure standpoint. Young lady's gilt's got raw power, expression of muscle up high. Need to change that one in terms of her skeleton. She's too rock forward, lean over her shoulder. Does an action right out of her back leg in terms of being too straight and stilty. Just doesn't prove with enough design there from the side to move up, but like her expression of muscle. Then the young lady's gilt rounds out the set. It all starts up front. That one's too flat in terms of its jaw and narrow skull. Same story follows suit from there. His back too closed up in terms of her chest. Coming and going. That one just needs to be more opened up, more powerful all the way through. She's got good expression of muscle. Need to change her in terms of the way she's set down to the ground. Once again, folks, put your hands together for these visitors.
Hey guys.
Purple, Jet Marion, receiving blues, Coy Childers, Delaney Childers, Kason Robertson, and Michaela Hood. Receiving a red, Ainsley Boltman. Entering the ring at this time, Class G2, Market Gilts, Burr Underwood, Jada Myring, Delaney Childers, Rayleigh Boltman, and Shaylin McConville. Class G3, please make your way to the holding pens. Darren McCondo, Galvin Emily Note, Mackenzie Freed, and Addison McCown.
Now we got him.
Yes.
As you can see, our green guys get an early morning workout in the day of the hog show, and we greatly appreciate their efforts. For ring help today, we have John Bartels, Tim Robertson, Andy Kressel, and Bailey Hood, and this show could not go on without them. So please give them
good here?
Really nice set here. The nicest one we've seen so far is this young lady's kind of clown colored deal. Talk about a boxy built hog that's opened up, tall fronted, still sleek through her lower jaw and jowl. Neck attachment's great. That one's built right from the ground up in terms of her skeleton. She's opened up, big ribs, bold in terms of her shape there, and that's what allows for all of that extra power and product to be laid down there behind her blade. We can change her there from behind. She's getting a notch on the outside of her skeleton going away as far as where she sets that back leg, but an awfully nice hog to go ahead and win this set. If we were going to switch 2 and 3, I think you could justify it. I think this young man's hog's got just a touch more look and design there from the side. Collar bladed, longer, more extended hog ahead of there. She's a little bit raw in terms of her lower body shape. She needs just a little bit more flesh and finish at this point. I think that would benefit her a lot. From a structure standpoint, maybe you want to see that back leg action just a notch better. She's got some extra set there and it's just a touch distracting. In terms of market fundamentals, this one's probably just a touch better. That's a wider constructed, bolder, bigger rib hog. It keeps the bigger shape out of the backside of her shoulder and leaves you more impressive in terms of power and muscle from behind. Back leg doesn't work right as far as that one. She wants to set and swivel out of her back leg. That needs to be changed in order for her to work out for me. These next two, I think they're one built from the same mold. They're expressive in terms of their muscle shape, but they're both just a little bit too flat in terms of their rib cage. And that's what allows for that extra expression of muscle to be laid up high. Just a little raw, free, a little bit more close up relative to those top three there. Young lady's hog just a little bit too moderate for me, a little jammed up off of both ends. She's too open in terms of her blade. Her back leg doesn't work right in terms of structure. She needs to be built better from that standpoint. Slide up a little higher. Really awesome set. Go ahead and give those exhibitors a round of applause.
Receiving purple, Jada Myrie. Receiving blue, Burr Underwood, Delaney Childers, Rayleigh Wolfman, and Shaylin McConville. Entering the ring at this time, Darren McConville, Gavin Bell, Emily Note, Mackenzie Shreve, and Addison Intermill. This is Market Class G3. Market Class G4, please make your way to the holding pins. Jet Childers, Emma Hitchcock, Chase Myrie, Brenna Shoemaker, Kaylee Shreve, and Sarah Note. Our alley help today is Jeremy Hitchcock, Sally Reiner, Brandon Shaman, Adam Davies, and Alicia Weir. None of these kids were made to the show ring without these guys helping these kids out in the back. So please give them a round of applause.
A little different set here as we come to this class. I think there's not necessarily one that just hits you super hard there from the start. I'm going to go ahead and use that speckle, that young lady's speckle heel to win for me. That one does need to be more expressive, but as we study that one from the ground up, that one's the most appropriate in terms of chest width coming at you with the skeleton leading you. And one that I think is just the most appropriate in terms of that one, the way that one's skeleton is laid into it. and the way that one gets around the ring and the structure. Maybe not the most attractive from the side, but I think that one's got the most pieces of look relative to the set. Young man's mask feel for me needs to be rearranged in terms of her skeleton to win. She's forward and out in terms of her blade. She's pinched in terms of her hip loin, and then all of that kind of draws away from that one skeleton as that one drives. But for me, that one's the next best in terms of her rib shape. And that's what allows for her extra shape and expression muscle up high. She's big out of the upper hip as well. Young man's hog that comes next, like this one in terms of softness and depth of rib cage, one that proves and looks with an easy feeding look. Coming at you, that one's too narrow skull, flat jawed, and then from there back, big story, too closed up for me at the surface. Maybe just a notch frailer there, but in terms of the market fundamentals, that one just hits me at the next muscle, a little bit softer in terms of her body shape than the one that comes next. Same story goes with this young man, or young lady, excuse me, stout skull, bigger in terms of the way her blade is laid into her. Up high, that one's too shapeless for me, and then going behind, that one just needs to be more expressive, more powerful, just a little bit more gas as that one goes away. Young lady's hog here, the fact that she's taken all of the hair off probably draws away from the fact that it, or even more accentuates the fact that that one needs more muscle shape right there directly behind her blade. And then the same story from behind, that one needs to be more powerful, a little bit more impressive in terms of sheer muscle as that one needs to be. But a really nice set. Go ahead and put your hands together for those individuals.
Yeah, 6 rounds. 6.
Receiving the purple, Emily Note. Receiving blue, Sarah McConville, Gavin Bell, and Mackenzie Shreve. Receiving the red, Addison Intermill. Entering the ring at this time is Market Class G4, Jet Childers, Emma Hitchcock, James Myring, Brenna Shoemaker, Kaylee Shreve, and Sarah Note. Class G5, please make your way to the holding pens. Evan Smith, Carson Thomas, Sutton Parkinson, Braylon Shrewsbury, and Hadley Shrewsbury.
ahead. Okay.
Once again here, a little clustery, getting that one pinned. The boardmen are doing an awfully nice job. With that being said, young man's chrome dove gilt one's pretty easy for me. It's hard to miss this one from the side, and then you catch that one on either side of you, or either end of that one. She's wide constructed, boxy like I said. She's extended, yet still proportional in terms of the way that one's put together. Her neck attachment's right. She's clean to her jowls, big and open in terms of her chest, big forearm, and then that one opens up right in terms of her rib cage. That's what allows for all of her massive power and product up high, and then if we study that one from the ground up, I think she handles it extremely well in terms of the way that one's skeleton is laid into her. She drives right, she's got a lot of longevity out here with that being said, and I think that proves just an even better skeleton with that being said. Young lady's black gilt for me, I think can be just a little bit of a problem. I think she's like second or fourth, and that's why I had a problem with that one. Catching from the side, she's a little drier in terms of her flank. She's not just super overwhelming in terms of her forehead, and just outward turn to her rib all the way through. But I think as you study that one coming and going, she's the next most appropriate in terms of the way her skeleton is laid into her. She's a little out in terms of her blade, but the angle is right, and I think that's what allows for her to just get around the ring and still stay aesthetic in terms of the way her skeleton is laid into her. Like I said, need to change her rib cage, but I still think she's got enough power and product up high in there from behind to go ahead and slide into second. Young lady talk that comes next for me, skeleton that gets this one beat. It's 2 rock forward in terms of her blade. That's what throws her neck attachment off. The time's starting to pull up in her just a little bit. And like I said, that one's just 2 up right off of either end. She needs to action better, but she's packed full of product and power, which is what slides her there in the third. Young man's hog, I like an awful lot from the side. That one's intriguing in terms of the way she's put together. She's sleek in terms of her jaw, tall fronted, level in terms of her spine. But then when you get on either end of her is where she slides there into the spot that she's at. She's too closed up and narrow coming and going. Flat in terms of her rib cage. She's more expressive and powerful up high, and the same story goes from behind, but lighter built from the side. Young lady's hog that comes next, a little down here, kind of ugly skull looking hog. He's got some expression of muscle. Once again, don't want to keep some hair on him. I think it draws away from the fact that there isn't very much there to begin with, and then when you take it all off, the hair kind of, I think, needs to be there to help accentuate that. Expressive, big out of her upper hip, needs to be bigger, or better in terms of her skeleton coming and going, open her up a little bit more. And then the young lady's hog that comes next, big outline, blade maturing, super extended. With that being said, though, too close up from the ground up doesn't really give herself a chance to prove and build enough muscle and power up high because she's too narrow constructed and flat underneath. But a nice set. But go ahead and put your hands together for those visitors.
Okay.
Receiving purple, Jace Myring. Receiving blue, Jet Childers, Emma Hitchcock, Kaylee Street, and Sarah Doe. Receiving red, Corinna Shoemaker. Entering the ring at this time is market class G5. Evan Smith, Carson Thomas, Sutton Parkinson, Braylon Shrewsbury, and Hackley Shrewsbury. Class G6, please make your way to the holding pens. Kaylee Street, Josie Sanders, Isaiah Briner, and Kyler Thomas.
Sort through young man's masked yield can go ahead and do for me again in terms of the basics. That one covers them all. Wide constructed, good in terms of her body shape. She's bold yet soft and productive from that standpoint. That's all what it facilitates her extra massive power up high. That one reads the most genuine in terms of her muscle shape right there behind her blade. She's still impressive in terms of her hip and pin set and lower stifle as she leads you a really nice one to go ahead and start off the set. Needs to be a little neater up front in order to just be a lead for me. Young lady's hog that comes next, maybe just a touch plainer in terms of her muscle shape. But still opened up and wide constructed. She's the most appropriate in terms of the way her rib shape is laid into her. She's still bold and soft. Maybe need to change that one from a structure standpoint. She's a little frailer in terms of her foot and toe, especially there from behind. Back leg needs to be just a shot less excessive in terms of the set there. Young lady's field that comes next. Expressive, opened up in terms of her rib cage, big in terms of her top side shape, leaves you with some power just in terms of structure. Need to rearrange that one. She's too open and forward in terms of her blade. Need to change that one in terms of the way she drives off of her rear skeleton as well. Young lady's hog that comes next, a little bit too shapeless for me. Wants to close up there in terms of the rib shape, too frail at the surface, and then closes up there as well. Just need to open that one up a little wider underneath to facilitate some more muscle and power up high. Back leg needs to be rearranged as well. Young man's hog that comes next, once again, same story, too narrow in terms of her skull, and then underneath, too close up in terms of her chest, flat bladed, and then still struggles a little bit in motion. She's got some expression of muscle up high. We need to rearrange that one from the bottom up, open her up as well as make her just a touch sounder, but a nice set. Go ahead and give those two visitors a round of applause.
Receiving purple, Evan Smith. Receiving blues, Sutton Parkinson, Braylon Shrewsbury, Kathleen Shrewsbury. Receiving red, Carson Thomas. Entering the ring at this time, market class G6, Kaylee Shreve, Josie Sanders, Isaiah Briner, and Kylie Thomas. Class G7, please make your way to the holding fence. Jacob Briner, Aubrey Shrewsbury, and Catherine Briner. Four. Yep.
Once again, a nice set here. Young lady's Belgian Gilt's going to go ahead and win for me. She's maybe just a touch coarse in terms of her skull and blade, but studying that one from the ground up, she's still wide constructed and productive and bold in terms of her rib cage. Maybe not perfect in terms of her structure, but definitely functional from that standpoint. Like I said, a little coarse, covers all the basics, and then I think it gets tight here for second and two and three, excuse me. You've got two opposite kind of pigs. Young lady's hogs maybe just a touch narrower, but definitely the softer, more productive one. Young man's hogs, the wider constructed one, is a little more expressive and just a little raw and hard. So with that being said, young lady's white belt Gilt's going to go ahead and be second for me. Like I said, just a touch narrower and flatter in terms of its rib shape, but like its extra softness, and then I think it's just a touch more appropriate in terms of the way that skeleton is laid into it. Young man's blue-butted Gilt, like I said, that's the more powerful option. That's rawer in terms of her shape and muscle up high, wider constructed in terms of her chest floor. That one needs to be changed from a skeleton standpoint to slide into that second hole. She's too rock forward in terms of her blade, gets a touch straighter off of her rear skeleton. But like I said, powerful, impactful of product, just a little bit raw and hard as well. Young man's hog that comes next, kind of if we were to sandwich both of those together, probably what happened. A little too plain in terms of her top side shape. She's soft, but still kind of flat in terms of her rib shape. Just a little too closed up coming and going, but a nice set. Go ahead and put your hands together for those exhibitors.
Receiving a purple ribbon, Kaylee Shreve. Receiving blues, Josie Sanders and Kylie Thomas. Receiving a red, Isaiah Greiner. Entering the ring at this time, market class G7, Jacob Greiner, Aubrey Shrewsbury, and Catherine Greiner. Will all of our purples please make their way back to the holding pens? Jet Harian, Jada Myring, Emily Nose, Jace Myring, Evan Smith, and Kaylee Shreve.
Yes.
What's the weight?
297 to 306. Now, if you choose your champion and want that reserve brought back, you can do that.
I know there's only 3, so I apologize for taking some extra time here, but I don't think there's just necessarily one in this set that you can just grab on and run with. I think there's pieces to appreciate about each of them. I'll highlight those real quick. The young man's Duroc hog is the sound destruction one that's doing the best holding this extra weight. As we push these hogs into these bigger sizes and heavier weights, not necessarily all of them can handle it in terms of structure, and that's why they start to fall apart and not drive as easy as well. With that being said, the young lady's white hog is the biggest and most impressive there from behind in terms of how we're leading you, and then the young lady's black belted hog is one that I think there's not necessarily something that's super overwhelmingly great, but nothing that's super overwhelmingly worrisome either. So with that being said, that's why I think the class gets tough, and there's pieces to appreciate about all of them. So with that being said, the young lady's speckled belted field is going to go ahead and win this set for me. She's still soft and productive, opened up in terms of her chest floor, but with that being said, she's a touch frailer, doesn't have the same amount of features. Some of the others in this class, she's a little narrow in terms of her skull, but she's got some extra expressional muscle up high. Needs to be rearranged in terms of her structure to handle that weight. I think she's just a notch too straight off the both ends. Young man's Duroc can go ahead and come second for me. This one might be the most closed up, coming and going, especially there in terms of her rib cage, and that's why there's just not a ton of power and product laid over the top of her, but also take into consideration that Duroc's not super expressive to begin with, and I like that pig a lot in terms of enjoy that one. Structure and build is way to do it. And that leaves the young lady's white hog. Like I said, that one's opened up underneath and still soft and productive, but just not overwhelmingly great everywhere. Like your extra power as she goes, but a little too frail underneath, a little closed up in terms of her chest support coming at you. Like I said, I think you can twist and turn these three any which way you like. That's why the decision's tough. But once again, folks, please put your hands together for these individuals.
Receiving blues, Jacob Briner, Aubrey Shrewsbury, and Catherine Briner. Entering the ring at this time will be Jet Marion, Jada Myring, Emily Note, Jace Myring, Evan Smith, and Kaylee Shreve. We will now be looking for our champion gilt and reserve champion gilt. Our Champion Market Gilt Award is sponsored by Chad and Valerie Bell, and our Reserve Champion Market Gilt Award is sponsored by Martin and Trish Shoemaker. Please remember, if you are not an exhibitor, we need you to get out of the hog alleys, please. If you are not an exhibitor, please get out of the hog alleys.
Just a champion and reserve.
Well, as we bring these back, I think there's an awfully nice set of high-quality animals out here. There's two that hit me awfully hard from the start. I'm not going to spend much more time on the mic because I think I've talked about each of them and each hog individually thoroughly enough that we don't need to spend more time listening to me harp and talk too fast and not understand them. So with that being said, young man with the calico hog is going to go ahead and be your champion. Young lady with the red gilt is going to go ahead and be your reserve. Put your hands together for a champion drive and really nice skills and exhibitors, folks.
Do you need to take a quick second, even if I get those guys to conclusions, or do you need to run it? You're good. It won't take us long, but...
Champion gilt is Jace Myring. Reserve champion gilt is Jada Myring. Peter Barrows 1, please make your way to a holding pen. Jace Stump, Jack Payne, Sarah Note, Brooklyn Warner, and Jace Myring. At this time, we would like to announce our 2020 Black Butte County Fair Grand Marshals, Steph Studio, and her crew. Steph, Doreen, Judy, Lori, and Leanne, thank you so much for all you do for the 4-H, FFA, and Black Butte County Fair for the last 29 years. The people behind the cameras and providing all of our pictures, thank you. We appreciate you.
Ready?
Entering the ring at this time, Peter Barrows 1, Jace Stump, Jack Payne, Sarah Note, Brooklyn Warner, and Jace Myring. Barrows, Class 1, please make your way to the holding pens. Gavin Bell, Hayden McDonald, Sarah Note, Addison Hintermill, Brenna Shoemaker, and Gatlin Bell.
Well, if this is any indicator of how the Market Barrow show is going to go, I'm awfully excited. I think there's a really, really nice set that's deep all the way to 3, in my opinion, and that's what makes sorting them fun. Young man Calico Hog's going to go ahead and win for me. You know, he's maybe just a little shorter, a little smaller all the way around, but I like this one in terms of his rib shape, and that's what allows him to piece together a more elite look there from the side for me. You know, for his size, he's still tall frontage, clean through his lower jaw and jowl, and still built right from the ground up. As far as the skeleton goes, he's not only sound and functional, but he's still wide constructed and square in the way that one drives. Young man Belton Hog's going to go ahead and come next for me. You know, that one has about as much feature and stoutness as you could put into one. It's a big skull, stout featured, big armed hog that still drives extremely well for his extra feature. You know, he's just a touch coarse all the way through though. Not only is his skull and blade just a touch coarse, but his joints as well. And then with that, he's just a touch raw and a little hollow and green there in terms of his lower body and flank especially. But a really nice set in terms of the way that one's built. Young man's hog that comes next for me was close in there for second. He's probably on the opposite end of the spectrum as far as being just a touch frailer in terms of the way that one's put together. And the biggest thing that probably got him beat is directly driving away. The fact that he's just a touch frailer there off of his back leg and then still doesn't draw enough power up there into his cycle is probably what gets him beat as much as anything. Young lady bird-colored hog that comes next, like a lot in terms of the basics. He's white constructed, opened up, soft and bold in terms of his rib cage and packed full of power. But for that breed, he also kind of draws with some of the negatives that are drawn with it. He's a little shorter in terms of his head and neck, a little chubbier there through his jowl, which tends to be a little bigger outline, a little later maturing all the way through. And that's where this young lady's Barrow has the advantage. That one is a touch more extended up front, there through his spine and out through his hip as well. The second that one coming and going, he's just a touch too closed up underneath for me. And the fact that his rib cage is just a little too flat helps him in terms of shape, but as far as volume muscle, probably just a little bit, or needs just a shot more. But an awfully nice set of feeders. Go ahead and put your hands together for those individuals.
purples. Receiving purples. Yeah, I don't know.
Receiving purples in that class, Jace Stump, Jace Myring. Receiving blues, Jack Payne, Brooklyn Warner. And receiving a red, Sarah Noe. Entering the ring at this time, Market Barrow, Class 1, Gavin Bell, Hayden McDonald, Sarah Noe, Addison Intermill, Brenda Shoemaker, and Gatlin Bell. B2, please make your way to the holding pins. Jay Stump, Aiden Holtman, Jada Myron, Casey Robertson, Talon Payne, and Dallas Boltman. I'm going to introduce our judge again. Laurel Despain grew up on a commercial cattle operation in Southeast Idaho. She showed cattle competitively for 10 years after graduating high school in Montana for Casper, Wyoming, where she competed on the livestock judging team. She graduated with her associates and was named an academic All-American Livestock Judge in 2017. She then transferred to the University of Wyoming and competed on the livestock judging team there as well. She was recognized as a high individual at the American Royal Livestock Judging Contest in Kansas City, Missouri. She graduated with her bachelor's in mass communications in 2019 and is currently pursuing her master's in animal science. She is the assistant coach for the UW Livestock Judging team alongside Caleb Boardman and her new husband. Please welcome Laurel Despain.
Hogs here to start off our first class. I think once again you could probably switch and flip these top three around any which way you'd like. There's not one that's just super easy to gravitate to, but with that being said, young ladies fur color bear is going to go ahead and win for me. He's not the neatest up front. Once again, he follows suit in terms of what breed is known for that, not fur color, spot colored hog. He's a little chunky there up through his front end, a little crest on the top side of his neck. Neck attachment's not great, but when you study that one underneath, he's wide constructed and opened up, both in terms of his rib shape, and that's what allows for his extra mass and product up high. That one to me is just the squarest built, the most acceptable in terms of his structure. Like I said, I think he gets close here for 2 and 3. I'm going to go ahead and use the young man's all black hog, not all black, sorry. Excuse me, I'm struggling today. But he's going to go ahead and do second. That one's just a touch more accessible in terms of the way his back leg works. He's still a little straight, still a little pinched in terms of his hip points, but still works just a little bit better than the young man's hog that comes next. Not perfect in terms of the way that one's built. He wants to funnel to the ground and close up underneath, but he's still got some of the chest there. He's still bold in terms of his rib shape. He needs to be just a touch more shapely and square right out of the backside of his plate for me, but a nice one. Young man's kind of chromed up there is going to come next. For me, one that maybe just doesn't look the freshest right now, and his hair and skin is right, but the shape's not quite there. His shine's starting to pull up in him a little bit. And then the biggest issue with that one is it going away. He wants to drop out of his hip point, get a little tight there as well. And then the most distracting part is that draws away and makes his back leg just a little distracting in terms of the way that one functions. Young man's hog that comes next, slides third for me, just for fourth based on the scale width underneath. He's just a little closed up, a little frail, a little narrow all the way through, but a nice hog that's just a touch softer, a little bit more expressive relative to the next two. Young lady's hog that comes next for me, a little bit plainer in terms of his top side shape and mass, narrow in terms of his skull, a little closed up in terms of his chest and blade, but still has some value in terms of his softness of body. He's still got some his width. Still got some power and width coming out of his upper hip. Then the young lady talk that comes next, like I said before, long and extended leg maturing type, just way too narrow and closed up for me. That one needs to be busted open wider and seriously just pack more power and product all the way through. A nice set though, folks. Go ahead and put your hands together for those in the room.
One and one.
I know. I don't know what happened. It was the first time for everything, though. It's all good. I felt bad.
Entering the ring at this time, Barrel Class 2, Jay Stump, Ainsley Woltman, Jaden Myrie, Kason Robertson, Talon Payne, and Dallas Woltman. B3, please make your way to the holding pens. Emma Hitchcock, Kason Robertson, Jacob Briner, Keegan Hitchcock, and Terrell Shrewsbury. Receiving purples in the last class, Sarah Note. Receiving blues, Gavin Bell, Gatlin Bell, Hayden McDonald, and Addison Intermill. Receiving a red, Brenna Shoemaker.
Yes, can you please put those pins somewhere? And then I'll be about to do it.
Again, a really nice set here. I think the deepest one we've had so far as the class goes. It's not every day you stack a Duroc up against a bunch of crossfeds, right? Wow, I'm struggling. It's not every day you stack a Duroc up a bunch of crossfeds and you get someone ballsy enough to use it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. To me, that's the one that's the best design. His skeleton action is better than the one I'm going to go ahead and slide second. And for his breed, I think his muscle shape up high is impressive. He's still fresh in terms of his shape, not overwhelming, but I think that goes along with the breed. Once again, he wins based on his skeleton and design standpoint. Young Man Talk that comes next to me, like I said, a close second. That one's definitely rawer and more expressive in terms of his muscle shape up high. He's more impressive as he needs to. That one sets down on a touch more substance of bone and stoutness of feature, but for me that one's a little rock forward in terms of his shoulder and knee, and then from behind as that one goes, maybe you can see him just a touch softer in terms of the way he plants and pushes that back leg. Young Man Talk that comes next is super impressive in terms of raw shape and power. That's got a big old back and a big old hip in him. Super impressive from that regard. He gets you from a skeleton standpoint. He's too rock forward with his weight as well, and then he wants to rock up in terms of his hip point and back leg, wants to swivel and push and plant a little outside of himself, and then with that he gets just a little raw and tight there through his lower body and flank. Young lady's hog that comes next, I think has some pieces of design. He just needs to be stretched out all the way through. He's a little too compact for me. Looks like he ran a 100-yard dash and a 90-yard gym. He's a little too jammed up in terms of his head and neck, a little shorter out of his hip, but really good in terms of the basics. Wide constructed, big ribs, and still powerful. Just need to stretch that one out a touch more. Young man's hog that comes next, like you see him with a little bit fresher hair and skin, but still covers the basics. Just gets beat from a skeleton and design standpoint. He's a little rock forward in terms of his knee and leg. Wants to plant a little straight off of his back leg, but still offers some power and product up high in there from behind. Big and soft in terms of his rib cage as well. Young man's hog that comes next, just a little plainer in terms of his muscle shape up high relative to the ones you get stacked against up high. Maybe just a little piecey and off in terms of his design from the side, but like I said, it's the easiest set we've had so far. Unfortunately, we got it stacked against a bunch of cool ones up there in front of it. Once again, folks, please put your hands together for these kids.
Receiving purples, Jada Myring and Jay Stump. Receiving blues, Ainsley Woltman, Kason Robertson, Talon Payne, and Dallas Woltman. Entering the ring at this time, Market Class D3, Emma Hitchcock, Kason Robertson, Jacob Reiner, Keegan Hitchcock, and Charles Shrewsbury. Class B4, please make your way to the holding pens. Katie McDonald, Kate Payne, Brennan Shreve, Shaylin McConville, and Talon Payne. Meat Goat exhibitors, just a reminder, your show will start at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock for the Meat Goat show.
Folks, a really nice set here. Young man's blue hog's gonna go ahead and use for me, like I said, and I've done before, to sound like a broken record. He just does the basics right. He's square and opened up underneath, still good in terms of his rib shape, and then up high, that one lays the most amount, and of genuine muscle from laid back there through his hip as well. He's the most appropriate in terms of his skeleton and look of design as well. We can fix him if you want to stretch him out, just a touch there ahead of his leg, give him a touch more substance there, especially off of his rear leg. Young man's all white hog that comes next. For me, this one just does the basics, the next best. He's the next most opened up, the next best in terms of his rib shape, and then from there back just lays the next most amount of muscle and shape up high. He's still big out of his upper hip as well. He needs to be rearranged in terms of his skeleton to be just a shot better there. Young man's hog that comes next, just a little fat and stale there through his lower body and flank and jowl. Outside of that, I still think he's pieced together right. He's sound structured, a little frail underneath, but still big in terms of his rib cage, still opened up and offers more volume of muscle relative to the next two. Young lady's hog that comes next, same story, a little stale there through his jaw and jowl, and then again there through his flank. He's just a little cleaner in terms of his muscle shape, but definitely appreciate his soft, easy feeding type of look there. And the young man's hog that comes next, long and extended, still offers volume muscle, just lacking in terms of the shape. Still sound structured, but needs to be just a notch better there from design. A design standpoint there off to the side, just to move up there a little bit more. But a nice set. Go ahead and put your hands together for those kids. Receiving purple, Kason Robertson. Receiving blues,
Emma Hitchcock, Jacob Greiner, Keegan Hitchcock, and Charles Shrewsbury. Entering the room at this time, market class D4, Peyton McDonald, Jay Payne, Brennan Shreve, Shaylin McConville, and Talon Payne. D5, please make your way to the holding pens. Josie Sanders, Braylon Shrewsbury, Keegan Hitchcock, and Jack Marion. Josie Sanders, Michaela Hood, and Corey Childers.
Covers all the basics that a good market hog should, and still does some with some extra power and product behind it. Like that one an awful lot. Young man, Belcher Hog's going to come next. He's not the most overwhelming in terms of his topside shape and mass, but from a design and skeleton standpoint, I like this one a tremendous amount. His blade near laid into him right. He still drives with a really flexible hip and hind leg, and his spine still stays in. He just needs to touch more power and product up high and move up. And every judge has their pet peeve, one thing that just kind of does it for them, and it's the young man's hog here. The front 2/3 of this hog I like an awful lot. He's huge and opened up, big in terms of his chest and gold-bladed, a little coarse in terms of his skull and elbow as well, but that one's opened up wide and square up front. Catch him directly behind you and he wants to push out of the top. And for me, that's the biggest place that he needs to be corrected in order for him to move up. But a nice hog needs a different back leg for me. Young man's tip that comes next. Good in terms of the basics, with his feet from a design standpoint, needs to be stretched out with just a touch more design and look for me. He gets a little chubby there up through his front end, a little heavier in terms of his jowl, just needs to be a touch more extended up front. And then from behind and going away, that one needs to be a notch square and level out of his hip, a little more correct in terms of the way that one plants and pushes his back leg. And then the young man's hog that comes next, a lot, really good in terms of length and extension. He's still soft and productive, still feeds with plenty of muscle shape up high. It's just coming and going. That one needs to be more opened up underneath in order to move up. Once again, folks, really nice set. Go ahead and give them a round of applause. Receiving purple, Shaylin McConville and Talon Payne. Receiving blues,
Caden McDonald, Kate Payne, and Brennan Shreve. Entering the ring at this time, market class B5, Josie Sanders, Braylon Shrewsbury, Keegan Hitchcock, Jet Harrion, Josie Sanders, Michaela Hood, and Coy Childers. B6, please make your way to the holding pen. Evan Smith, Audrey Shrewsbury, Braylee Bolton, Mackenzie Shreve, Emily Note, and Jace Myring.
John. Okay.
To give a big thanks to all of our swine superintendents for all their hard work. This show would not be possible and not run so smooth. So our swine superintendent, Ron Hensler, and our assistant superintendents, Valerie Bell, Lacey Hitchcock, Elaine Schumann, and Dustin McConville. We can give them a big round of applause for all of their hard work. We also want to recognize our junior superintendents for all of their contribution to the show: Isaiah Reiner, Jalen McConville, Keegan Hitchcock, and Gavin Bell.
Exhibitors and parents of exhibitors, please be sure to turn in your sale cards 30 minutes after the hog show. Please have that card completed with your exhibitor and parent or guardian signatures and ribbon placing. Remember, 30 minutes after the hog show, turn in your sale cards.
When I saw where you were at, I was like, hey, she's supposed to be in this stuff. But it'll work out.
You got it figured out.
Yep.
leg. It needs to be just a touch more flexible as well up front. But once again, in terms of the market fundamentals, that was because the most of it is right. Wide constructed opened up, powerful in terms of the way that was constructed as well. Things get pretty close here between second and third, but I'm going to go ahead and use the young man in the corner. Long and extended type of pig, which gives the shot more power and product up high and there from behind. But a sound structured, functional type of hog, just needs a touch more power and product. Maybe needs to just crank open a little wider there underneath. Young lady's hog that comes next is the more expressive option of the two, but in terms of skeleton design, that one's just not near as intriguing or attractive in terms of the way that one's pieced together from the side. But like I said, fresh in terms of his muscle shape up high, and then again there from behind. Just needs to be rearranged structurally to go ahead and move up. Young man's hog that comes out in fourth, big, opened up, wide constructed, huge in terms of his rib cage, and there's definitely the volume muscle there. From a structure and a finish standpoint, that was not very attractive for me from the side. Not only is that one the creepily or hog too jowly and kind of wasty up there through his front end, he's got so much finish pushed into him that he's kind of cleaner in terms of his muscle shape up high. Needs to be freshened up there in terms of his flank and just stretched out all the way through. Young lady's hog comes next, definitely raw and expressive, good in terms of chest width coming at you, still good in terms of his rib shape, needs to be just a bit bolder there in terms of his forehead. Going away is where that one needs to be rearranged, way too outside of itself. And then the young man's hog that comes next, once again, same thing, just a touch jowly and wasty there to his lower 1/3, needs to be freshened up there to his jowl and flank. A little, needs to be just a touch more expressive in terms of his muscle shape up high, and then directly going away is probably what shorts it down for me. Needs to be more powerful out there on his upper hip and cycle. Needs to drive away with more skeleton from behind as well. Young lady's hog comes next. That's the fresher option of the two, but once again, coming at you and going away, that one's just too narrow and closed up for me. Need to bust that one open to the lower portion of its skeleton to move up. An awfully nice set. Once again, folks, go ahead and put your hands together for those exhibitors.
Receiving a purple, Josie Sanders. Receiving blues, Josie Sanders, Braylon Shrewsbury, Keegan Hitchcock, Jet Harrion, and Coy Childers. Receiving a red, Michaela Hood. Entering the ring at this time, market class B6, Evan Smith, Aubrey Shrewsbury, Rayleigh Bolton, Mackenzie Shreve, Emily Note, and Jace Myring. B7, make your way to the holding pens. Major McDonald, Gatlin Bell, Catherine Griner, Isaiah Griner, and Burr Underwood. Should be 6.
Okay. 6.
Run. Run. Then 5, and then 4.
And then 3.
Nope, then done.
Every year we
It's just close. She sorts them awesome too. She just does it quick and yeah.
here once again, folks. Young man's kind of blue speckled hog, so go ahead and win for me. Back leg needs to be a shot bigger and maybe needs just a touch more cycle shape there, especially on the outside of it, driving away. But that one's put together how one needs to be from the side. Tall bladed, neat in terms of the way that one's front end is laid into it. Still opened up and square in terms of its rib cage and frame and foundation underneath. Maybe just needs to be a shot more impressive there from behind. Young lady's hog that comes next, biggest issue I have with this one is to its front 1/3. Just a touch rock forward in terms of its bladed knee, a little out there as well. Needs to be fresher in terms of the way that one's trying is laid into it. It's a little wasty there for its jowl as well, but in terms of the basics, it's a wide constructed square cage kind of hog. It's still big and massive in terms of its topside shape. Still impressive as it goes away. It's still square in the way it plants and pushes its hip and hind leg. Young man's hog that comes next slides where he does just based on the fundamentals. It's opened up, wide constructed, still offers some massive power blade back. Needs to be rearranged in terms of design. Two rock forward in terms of its blade, a little down in terms of its neck attachment, a little wasty up front as well, but still powerful as it leaves you. Young lady's hog that comes next is the fresher, shapelier option of those two. From a design and structure standpoint, this one needs to be fixed. Once again, too tight and upright there for its front 1/3, and then again, plants and pushes too straight off of its rear end. Still offers plenty of power, which needs to be fixed from a structural standpoint. That's where I like the young lady's curved up hog just a notch better. This one's the sounder, more flexible option, but for me, he's done so while sacrificing some natural skill with some stoutness of feature and his overall width all the way through. Nice hog from a structural standpoint, just needs a little bit more gas. Then the young lady's hog that comes next, same story, functionally structured, big and soft in terms of his rib cage, just needs to be a little bit heavier muscle for me. A nice step though, folks. Give those kids a round of applause.
Receiving purples, Jace Myring and Mackenzie Shreve. Receiving blues, Evan Smith, Rayleigh Woltman, and Emily Note. Receiving a red is Aubrey Shrewsbury. Entering the ring at this time, Market Class B7, Peyton McDonald, Gatlin Bell, Catherine Briner, Isaiah Briner, and Burr Underwood. Class B8, make your way to the holding pens, Darren McConville, Jet Childers, Sutton Carcason, and Michaela Hood.
Yes. Yeah, 5. Too much effort to stand up.
I think the young man's off belted hog wins this set pretty easy. Once again there, just does the most things right. Needs to be just a touch fresher there for his lower jaw, but outside of that, for a strong structured, functional type of hog that still offers some pieces of look and design to gravitate to when you hear in the ring. Still does the basics, like I said. He's wide constructed, square in terms of the way he's built, and offers a ton of product there up high and from behind. Young man's bird colored hog that comes next, needs to get through his lower jaw and flank. A little bit, needs to be a little more extended up front as well. It's a little crusty there at the top side of his neck, but this does the market fundamentals the next best. Soft and productive, big in terms of his rib cage, still offers some product there up high and from behind. Young lady's hog that comes next, this is kind of a structured option of the two. I think the next two hogs are fairly similar in terms of the way that they're built. This one's just a touch cleaner right there behind his shoulder, a little straighter in terms of his blade, closed up front, but leaves you with more power and expression, and that's what sorts him over the young man's calico hog that comes next. Like I said, that one was a touch cleaner behind his shoulder. This one's definitely better in that regard as far as getting a square and more massive shape from their back. It shares the same issue as far as needing to be just a touch fresher through his lower jaw and flank. And then going from behind is where he gets beat for me. It needs to be more impressive in terms of his width, his pin width, skeletal width, leaving you and just needs more product all the way through, especially good for his lower sight. When the young man's hog that comes next, just a little bit too narrow skulled, flat-bladed, and just a little too closed up all the way through. But like its lateness, maturity, and extension, it still leaves you with a touch of expression there from behind. A nice set, folks. Once again, put your hands together.
Receiving purples, Burr Underwood. Receiving blues, Peyton McDonald, Gatlin Bell, and Catherine Greiner. Receiving a red, Isaiah Greiner. Entering the ring at this time, Darren McConville, Jet Childers, Sutton Parkinson, and Michaela Hood. Making their way to the holding pen, Sarah Note, Jada Myring, Kason Robertson, Shaylin McConville, Josie Sanders, Jace Myring, and Drew Underwood.
The same thought I had in the Market Guild show. As you start pushing these animals into these heavier weights, the skeleton doesn't necessarily handle it as well as it would if it was around the 250 to 270 range, which is that's the kind of size I prefer and kind of tend to lean towards. With that being said, I don't think any of these costs back in terms of muscle. I think they're all appropriate in terms of the way that skeletons are built as far as width and meat. So with that being said, young man on the far side is going to go ahead and win this set for me. He's not the most opened up of the set, but like I said, I think he's adequate from that regard. Coming at you and going away, that one's just the square is built as far as the way he takes his speed to the surface. He still needs to provide an adequate amount of muscle of hiding there from behind. Young man Speckled Belted Hog that comes next is probably the more massive option of the two. It's just a touch more shapely and aggressive in the turn of muscle he takes to inflate back. With that being said, he needs to be fresher there through his lower jaw. Doesn't proportion up quite as well as the one that wins for me. It's just a touch grabber there out of his hip. Once again, though, I like that hog a lot in terms of the way he's built. He's sound structured and acceptable in terms of his skeleton. Needs to be just a touch stouter in terms of his feature at the surface. Young lady Fielder comes next. This one screams raw power. He's super expressive up high, especially laid back. Certainly doesn't disappoint as he leads you. From a structure standpoint, though, that one's too rock forward in its blade, too tight in terms of its knee. The same story there from behind in terms of the way that one takes the hog actions. Just needs to be a touch more flexible. Same story for this one. This young lady's hog, for me, this one's just the most closed up and the framest underneath. Needs to be rearranged in terms of its structure as well. A little too plain in terms of its muscle shape up high, but so soft in terms of its rib cage and deep from that regard. Still big out of its upper hip and provides a lot of power there in terms of its cycle from behind. Just needs to be more opened up underneath, especially coming at you. But a nice set though, folks. Once again, put your hands together.
Receiving purple, Aaron McConville. Receiving blues, Chet Childers, Sutton Parkinson, and Michaela Hood. Entering the ring at this time for Champion Market Bureau is Sarah Note, Jada Myring, Kason Robertson, Shaylin McConville, Josie Sanders, Jace Myring, Burr Underwood, and Darren McConville.
Trying to count. Must be tired. Big Chase. Big Chase stuff. Big stuff. Not for sure.
We've got an awfully nice set, folks. I think if you look in the ring, you'll see a set of productive marked hogs that definitely meet the basics. Some do things just not better than others. Like I said in the field, I think I've talked about each one individually thoroughly enough, but I don't think spend more time on the night. I don't think it's close. There's one thing awfully hard to start once again. I echo the same thought. First impression hits, and I know a good one when I see it. You have a man special hog here, so go ahead and be your champion. Folks, put your hands together one more time for all the exhibitors in the ring right now. Now with that being said, I think it gets gets a lot closer here for reserve. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the ones that I personally think are in contention. Young lady, 7149, blue-butted barrow, I like a lot. Does the basics right in terms of being light constructed and opened up. Maybe just not the most elite in terms of the way that was put together there from the side. Young man, blue Belty hog coming around the corner in the back, I like an awful lot. One thing I'd like to think about him is back leg. That's the only question I've got in my mind about him. Second we bring back from our the one in the champion class. If that one's any better, any wider, and more impressive as he comes at you, I don't think it'd be close. Because in their back, that one's built like a good one should be. And then the young lady Duroc, I think just does an awful lot of things right in terms of the way that was skilled when he's laid into it. He sounds structured, elite in terms of the way that was put together from the side. The only question I ask myself is there enough of him to go ahead and slide up there into reserve? So with that being said, folks, put your hands together one more time. I'll take a final look and get you to reserve.
You got it going.
Market Barrow goes to Jason Myrie. Reserve Champion Market Barrow goes to Jason Robertson. Entering the ring at this time, we have Jason Myrie with his gilt. We have Jada Myrie with her gilt, Jason Myrie with his barrow, and Jason Robertson with his barrow. Thank everybody for joining us again this morning. You've seen 89 hogs and 47 4-H exhibitors put on a great show for you. Thanks for joining us online. Hope to see you next year.
Alright, I'll be a little faster this time. I apologize for taking so much time on that last one. Big communication with me. I think you could have justified using any of those to slide there into reserve, and that's why the decision was so tough. But for me, I've had this one made up from the get-go. I'm not going to split the pair up. I still think there's an awfully good set of gilts out here. They're going to go ahead and be your champion and reserve overall. So one more time, put your hands together for an awesome set of hogs.
Your overall champion market swine goes to Jace Myrie with his gilt. Your reserve champion overall market swine goes to Jada Myrie. Our Champion Market Barrow Award was sponsored by Martin and Trish Shoemaker. Our Reserve Champion Market Barrow Award was sponsored by Ray and Jen Krause. Our Champion Market Swine is sponsored by Coke, Napa, Auto, Farm and Truck. And our Reserve Champion Market Swine is awarded in memory of Catherine Hood. Thank you again